All right, Big Man, welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Today is Thursday. It is February 16th. It's myself, it's Chief, it's Jeff Nadu in from Lancaster.
Pennsylvania.
Lancaster. How do you say it?
Lancaster.
So I said it right the first
That's
time.
where all the Amish are, right?
Yeah, the county is. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that on the mid-show.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to definitely talk about that because that is one of the biggest things I hear. Oh, you're Amish. That's why your hair's like that.
I mean, you just scream Amish when I look at you.
Yeah. But it's something we'll talk about. It's a mysterious thing.
It's high on my list to talk about with Jeff.
Okay.
So I'm excited for that.
Same.
Because I
love doing that.
I want to hear what's going on. But actually today we're going to talk about Supermax prisons.
Totally different.
Which,
by the way, we should do a dog walk at some point on the Amish. I don't know if you ever have.
How about this? Would you rather, well, maybe we'll save it. Would you rather be in a Supermax prison for a year or live as an Amish person for a year?
I'll tell you why you'd rather live with Amish.
He's about to tell us. You know like a shit ton about Supermax prison.
I do. I always say I know the most about prison in America, and I've never actually been there. I'm fascinated by that world. And, I feel like I know a good amount about it. So, plus, my best friend was in federal prison for a decade, so that helped.
I see you post that.
So you got a tutor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of people. I talk to people that have done 20, 30 years in prison. So, yeah, it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to get into that today. Before we do, though, I do want to talk about BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a sponsor of today's show. When you're at your best, you can do great things, but sometimes life gets you bogged down, and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in the way that you want to. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you because you feel empowered. You're more prepared to take on everything life throws at you. So listen, there's many benefits to therapy, right? I mean, everyone knows that. It's just better to get things out.
This is a big week for people to sign up for therapy, I feel like. You see all those people posting their significant others all day long on Valentine's Day. You start to feel a little shitty about yourself. Go to a therapist, get your life right. Maybe next year you have one too.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's flexible, affordable, and entirely all online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch your therapist anytime for no additional charge. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/walk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/walk. All right, Jeff. So you said this is going to be kind of morbid, right?
I would say it is. I mean, the federal prison system is one that, I think a lot of people just hear prison and they think it's a local county facility or something like that. But there are 3 levels of prison, right? You have county, state, and then federal. So if you go out and rob a bank down the street, you're going to federal prison, right? There are a lot of federal charges, whether it's bank robbery, wire fraud, RICO, drug trafficking, stuff like that. And they elevate it to a federal level charge. You're going to go to a federal prison.
Why? Is it because is the crimes that can cross state lines, or is
Correct.
it just a level of crime?
Generally, it's a level of crime, but it's also, like you said, a lot of it is crossing state lines, federal lines. So if you were sex trafficking, if you were, carrying contraband through borders and stuff like that, it's all going to be a federal crime. Now, once you get to federal prison, there are sentencing statutes on how they gleam what kind of prison you're going to go to.
Okay.
So if you commit a crime, let's say you go rob a bank tomorrow.
It's possible.
You've never been arrested, right?
Nope.
Never been arrested at a federal level. You'd be a level 0. Okay. So there are going to be a guideline where they recommend you get a certain amount of time, and it's all in months. So they're going to send you to a lower security prison. You've never been a flight risk. You never had any problems. Now, let's say you've committed multiple crimes in the federal prison system and you go back for the second or third time. You have a certain amount of points. You get points, and the more points you have, the longer sentence you have, the higher institution level you go to. So there are 5 levels. There's a camp. That would be where they send your white-collar Ponzi schemers, not Bernie Madoff.
Okay.
People like, small Ponzi scheme, Billy McFarland, the Firefest guy.
Okay.
Mike the Situation, tax cheats, people like that. Sex offenders as well, a lot of the time. They're going to send you, yes.
I feel like that would be at a higher level than a white-collar crime.
Well, it really depends. A lot of sex offenders they're going to send to what you would call a dropout yard. A dropout yard is the same as a camp. It's for people that, A, cooperate, are low offender individuals or sex offenders, because generally they're going to coexist all together. They're not behavioral problems anymore. So they kind of all house them all together.
Okay.
So that is their lowest. That's going to be like there are hotels in this country that are not as nice as that place. Like you go to a place, there's one in New York, Otisville. It's like a dorm. There's no walls, there's no bars, nothing. It's like a dorm atmosphere.
What's that, upstate?
Yeah, it's upstate New York. It's about 40 miles from the city. And a lot of, like when Madoff got convicted, that's where he wanted to go because it was very close geographically. They're very helpful to Jewish inmates. They give certain types of meals. It's just a place you want to go to. Then there's going to be a low, medium, high security, AdMax. That's your Supermax. There's one in America, Florence, Colorado. It was open in 95. And the reason it was opened was because they had no place to send the worst people on the planet in this country.
And that's where El Chapo is now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, they created the Supermax in Colorado because of a situation that happened not far from here in Marion, Illinois. In the early 80s, 1983, there was an inmate there, Thomas Silverstein. For the past 40 years, he's been in solitary confinement. He died a few years ago. And the reason he's in solitary out of ADX and was there is because in 1983, he was serving 2 life sentences after he originally went in for bank robbery. He became part of the Aryan Brotherhood in the early 80s, killed the leader of the DC Blacks, who was they were a rival group. They were a group of black guys from Washington, D.C. He killed this guy, Cadillac Smith, who was at Marion. He killed another individual in the DC Blacks as well. And they put him in this control unit at Marion. That at the time was the most secure area in the world, in this country, as far as prisons.
Can I ask a stupid question? Mm-hmm. If you kill someone in prison,
yeah,
do they like spend the time to put you through like an entire trial for the person
yeah,
you
they're
murdered?
definitely going to put you to trial. You're going to have to face a trial.
Okay.
Because they're going to. It's obviously, and when you commit multiple murders in jail, it becomes redundant, right?
Yeah.
But they still have to do the same checks and balance system.
Yeah.
So he had committed multiple murders. Now keep in mind, when he went into prison, he only had a 15-year sentence.
Okay.
But a lot of these guys, the ones that are in the Aryan Brotherhood, the original founding members, the Silversteins, this guy Barry Mills, T.D. Bingham, some of the commissioned people in the Aryan Brotherhood, they had only went into prison for 10, 15 years. They then commit murders on behalf of the Aryan Brotherhood. And this guy Silverstein was doing life in this control unit. And there was a guard there that was hassling him, this guy Merle Klutz. And Silverstein's talked about it in letters that he hassled him all the time. These guards just, they wouldn't give him food. They were just really rough. So he got an idea one day, this guy's fucking with me. I'm going to get him back. And a lot of the people with him told him, like, that's not how you're going to get him back. Anytime you left your cell, you were handcuffed, you're shackled. So he got another inmate that was a brother as well in the Brotherhood he walked up to his cell. They made a key out of like a hanger, like a little wire hanger. And he unhooked his handcuffs and he went up to this Merle Klutz and stabbed him 40 times and killed him. Now another inmate the same day, this is the same day in the same facility, October 22nd, 1983, another inmate who was a prospect. A prospect in the Aryan Brotherhood is like an associate. He's trying to like become a member. So he's trying to impress the people above him. This guy, Clayton Fountain, he also killed a guard, Robert Hoffman, same day, same 2 people from the same group. And this is where the warden at the time decided, and the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, said, we need a place past this facility. This facility is not secure enough. We need a worse place. And that's when they decided to build ADX out in the Rocky Mountains.
So, and you think that there is use for that? Like how many people are in that maximum security prison now?
I believe there's
ADX?
400 people.
Okay.
Around 400. But remember, these are the people that cannot play well with anyone else.
Okay. So is it all solitary confinement basically there?
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't see anyone else. Now, it's interesting because in the ADX, I'll talk about, there's a place called Range 13 inside the ADX. It's even worse.
So it's like
ADX.
7 layers of hell.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a prison inside a prison. And they built the ADX with the notion of it's all underground. The windows are all frosted, so you have no idea.
If it's sunlight or...
Right. You don't know what time of day it is. There's very little humane treatment there. But what's crazy about the ADX is how secure it is because like the place at Marion, or there's another prison in Thompson, Illinois. I don't know where it is actually, but I guess it's close to here. I don't know. They have a prison there that's super secure. Like the high security prison, the USP, the Leavenworth, the Lewisburgs, the Marions, they're really secure places. I mean, they're some of the most secure in this country. And these places aren't even secure enough for people like Chapo, Ramzi Youssef. A lot of these people are terrorists. They're people that have escaped prison. They've killed guards. They can't be housed anywhere else.
The Marion one, I used to pass all the time going to school. That's
It's that close?
Oh yeah, it's right by Carbondale.
Okay.
So it's way downstate.
Oh, okay.
And they usually put these institutions in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, you look at a place like Marion, you look at a place like ADX out in Florence, that's the only functioning place for people to work, really. So these are little towns, and they throw them in the middle of nowhere, and they are the essential capitalism in those areas.
Marion's, it's a small town, don't get me wrong. There's definitely a little more than that. But it's definitely a lot of people are like, yeah, I work at the
I'd love to know, like in the
work at
80s, how many people worked at Marion, like
Sure.
men
Yeah,
wise.
yeah,
I mean, probably most of the men work there, or maybe one or two other places. So, but yeah, it's so this guy Silverstein, he's kind of the reason they created the ADX, and they essentially sent him there, and he was in solitary confinement at ADX for close to 40 years. And he actually sued the federal government for cruel and unusual punishment. He essentially said in his older years that the way I'm being housed here is inhumane. And yes, I kill guards, and yes, I hurt a lot of families, and yes, I'm a violent criminal.
But I'm also uncomfortable. And that's wrong.
Well, I get that, and I'm not going to try to make a case for him. I don't think we should feel sorry for people like him, but you have to ask yourself, is there a point where it's too cruel? To the point of like,
I actually do think that there's a point where it can be too cruel.
I mean, do you know what years of like severe isolation does to your mind?
You probably go fucking insane.
Yeah. And it's like, and in a building like that, the lights never go off. Yeah. So in the cell, it's 2 a.m. and there's bright lights,
like a light
on.
Fluorescence, dude.
And he wrote stories, and he actually spoke to one journalist. This journalist went down and spoke to him, and he literally talked about the days where he would go weeks on end without even seeing a guard. They wouldn't feed him. If they fed him, they just threw it into his cell. He would talk about the only human contact he had, or any mammal contact he had, were rats. And he would play with them, and he was essentially on another planet in his head. He
probably a very miserable place to work too. I'd
imagine that,
right?
And you're dealing with the worst criminals. You know, a lot of them are not from this country. You know, I mentioned that Range 13.
How the fuck does that work? I understand the El Chapo and Ramzi Youssef and people like that, but it's like, imagine you're like, what is the extradition process to be, and then be like, we're gonna take that guy, because you said there's 400 of them.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people that are in ADX are, again, like people that, you know, they may be like, a lot of them are criminals from this country. Like, one of the people that's at ADX right now, I did a show on, Kabani Savage. He was this drug trafficker who, from prison in Philadelphia, ordered fire bombings of like homes and stuff.
Okay.
And it's people that break the rules, and they, you know, maybe send hits out from prison. They're going to send them folks there as well. But the people that commit crimes that are not from America are generally your terrorists that commit a crime in America, or like the end goal is to hurt America.
Okay.
You know, your people like Richard Reed.
He's a shoe bomber, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Zacharias Moussaoui, who was involved in September 11th. And then your Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, he's there. The
Boston bomber, yeah.
Now, keep in mind, the federal prison system does have death row, but it's in Terre Haute, Indiana. It's not at ADX. So like Dylan Roof, he was at ADX for a while, and they sent him to Terre Haute because he's on death row. Now, we haven't executed anyone outside of the Trump administration. He was pretty big on executing people, but before then, we hadn't executed someone in forever. And generally, when you're on death row, you're
Wait, is that true that there's only one death row prison at the federal level?
At the federal level,
state level, they're killing people left and right.
State death row is different. You know, that's a whole different. So like, it's so confusing with like when you commit crimes, like what's a federal crime, what's a state crime. But so like, you go rob a store on a corner, that's a state crime. You're gonna go to a state prison. Anything involving money, federal money, borders, state lines.
If you're like running guns or something.
Correct. Yeah. Through borders. Wire stuff. So like fraud and things like that. And then RICO, which is nowadays what they're getting a lot of people in, a lot of these criminal groups. They're getting people and saying, okay, there's someone at the top that orchestrates all of you below him to commit criminal acts. And we're going to all push it up. And RICO was how they took down the mob. It's how they took down the Aryan Brotherhood. It's how they took down all this stuff. But what people don't realize is when you go to prison, whether it's, a federal prison, a state prison, you're almost forced to join a gang. It's almost
For your own protection.
Yeah, it's almost, especially if you go to like in California, Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, you go to a heavy, high-end, like dangerous prison, you have to. It's how you do it. And when you join a gang, you're asked to put in work. You're going to have to go out and you're going to have to sell drugs and you're going to have to stab people and you're going to have to do things. And you see these people that go in there, and there's been movies made about it where you do 5-10 years, but within a year or two, you're doing life because you killed somebody, and if you say no, you're going to get killed.
So in the, you seen True Detective season 1?
Yes.
You've seen that, obviously, right?
Yep.
There's a scene where they're talking about the prison Angola.
Yeah, it's in Alabama.
That's in Alabama? I thought it was in
Mississippi.
It's in Louisiana.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
Are there like outside of ADX? Are there like
Supermaxes in states
where it's like they have a reputation for being the fucking Wild West?
Well, yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
They have to because the state level has violent criminals as well. Your violent gang members and your people that are just they can't be housed anywhere else. So yeah, each state has kind of a level of unit, right? So like in California, they have I think 5 levels.
Okay.
That'll be your Pelican Bay, your
I've
San
heard of that.
Quentin.
Heard of that.
They all have what's called seg, which is your segregation. It's similar to your ADX. But yeah, each state level has those prisons as well. I believe Illinois. I forget. I don't know what it is now, but back in the day there was a prison called Joliet.
Yeah,
I think it's still around. But yeah, each state it's so much more because they're But
JCC.
Joliet Jake. That's where the Blues Brother.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where he was. That's where I want to see.
Joliet Correctional Center. Yeah.
I want to say Gacy was there too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And the thing but when we head back to like federal prisons, if you commit a federal crime, you don't want to go to a USP. There are 22 of them. And you obviously don't want to go to AdMax. Now, if you're a regular person, any of us in this room that have not committed federal crimes, you're not going to go there. And that's why when Whitey Bulger was killed, his family sued the BOP because they said, why was our father, who was a known informant and 88 years old, why was he sent to USP Hazleton, which is right below AdMax? Why is he sent there? It should have never happened. It was a clerical error, and sending him there was a death wish.
Wasn't it pretty gruesome what happened to him?
I think it's one of the most the worst crimes I've ever seen are like Mexico, places like that. But in mob terms, I think it's the most violent murder I've ever seen in mob terms. They gouged his eyes out.
It's pretty bad.
They beat him with a lock and a sock. And it was 2 men that were like in their 30s. These guys, they did a number on him. And he's in a wheelchair. He's elderly. He should have been in a medical center. That's where they send these older folks that are like, have you ever seen Sopranos?
Yep.
Yeah.
Johnny Sack, they sent him to like the medical center for federal prisoners. That's where people like that should go. You send Whitey Bulger to that prison, he's dead within 12 hours.
All right. Now, there's an issue that I feel like gets talked about a lot in different election cycles on the national level that I don't really know a lot about, but it is this idea that there are these private prisons.
Yeah.
And that's basically like it incentivizes law enforcement and lawmakers to create laws that fill these prisons that are privately owned, and they're it's like, hey, like you write this law, we're going to get more prisoners and I'll donate to your campaign, and the round and round it goes. So where do the private prisons fit into this landscape?
Well, that's at every level too, because you have these like kind of like satellite facility type of things, and they have them in the state prisons too. Like I know in Pennsylvania, I had a kid I knew who was in state prison in Pennsylvania, and when you would send him letters, they would go to Florida because he was in this like random place in Florida. They just send him there. And yeah, that's another thing that's added on to like kind of the hypocrisy of crime, because it almost does incentivize people to put them in prison because you make money off them.
Right.
And that's done at every level. That's
so then, but it would still be a situation where it's like I commit a offense of some kind.
Well, yeah, because
and I'm charged at a criminal level or at a state level, but then they're going to send me to this private.
They could. I mean, a lot of the time, I mean, you got to realize, I mean, you're going to run out eventually of prisons, so they just have to keep building more. And there's times where, like, if you're like someone who they need to hide or something, you know, they'll put you in. Like, there's a guy right now, I blogged about it. This guy LaBarbie, he was a cartel leader in Mexico. He's from Laredo, Texas. He went to Mexico and became this huge cartel leader. He was in federal prison, and a few months ago, he disappeared from the database. It just said not in BOP custody anymore. And that doesn't happen. They didn't just let him out.
Yeah.
He was doing 50 years. So he became an informant, and they took him out of prison and they put him somewhere else. So what they probably did in that situation is sent him to somewhere like that.
Okay.
It's kind of off the books. It's not on the database. And, you know, they also use like those places for like migrant facilities and stuff like that. But yeah, they're everywhere. They're in the state system, they're in the federal system, and they're just a way for people to make money.
It's fucked up.
Reading this death on Whitey
Because
Bulger.
again, like that's what the drug war and all this stuff is. It's all money in the end. It's all good for the government and the police departments and stuff.
Crazy, dude.
But yeah, the ADX is I think there's been one camera crew ever there. The cells everything in the cell is concrete. It's entirely concrete. You have a little mat on the bed.
So, and maybe I missed this. What happened when they sued the federal government for cruel and unusual punishment?
Yeah, so Silverstein, he sued the government, and you know, the problem that he had is his very long and just destructive career as a criminal. I mean, he killed like multiple people, and it made it clear at every level he could not be dealt with. And he kind of made the case of, I'm an old man now. I'm not a flight risk anymore. I've moved on. I was a young kid back then. I don't believe he died, so I don't believe the lawsuit I don't believe it ever got figured out. But they painted him in court as this violent criminal, and it's all just a ruse and an act to get out of solitary. And that's what he had wanted. He essentially said in his letters that, I know I'm never going to get out of prison. I just want to be a human being again. I want to be around other people. I want to be able to have like some sort of enjoyment. I mean, we have to ask ourselves, is that too cruel? But then you say to yourself, I mean,
well, if you kill multiple people, then maybe you you want to be a human. Well, I don't think that. Here's something that just popped in my head. Do you think if you're sent to ADX, that you should be given the right to choose voluntary death penalty?
No, because that's not your choice to make. That's set by the court. And it's really hard to convict someone and give them the death penalty, especially at the federal level. It's really hard. And a lot of the time, you know, criminals, like because
it sounds like if you presented that option to me, I would just like, fucking kill me.
Well, I'll tell you right now, on the state level of like death penalty state level, I've often said if I committed a state crime and it was capital murder, I would much rather be on death row than go to Supermax. Because on death row, I mean, whether this is fair or not, they actually live a pretty all right life. I mean, they have their own cell. I mean, I know in like a place like Indiana, at Indiana State Prison, the cells are pretty big, probably like the size of this. I mean, it's not great by any means, but it's better than 2-3 people in a cell. You have your own wing. It's quiet. You're just gonna wait to die. Now you may never die.
Meal that they talk about, is that a real thing?
The last meal? Oh yeah, for sure. Now there's a budget a lot of the time, so you can't just get whatever you want.
Can't fly in
caviar. But usually they have like a chef or someone there that makes it, and they try to get it to the best of what they can. But yeah, it's the ADX is I would try to find a way. If I had to go there, I'd find a way to probably off myself. I wouldn't. I mean, that is...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, should they be like, look, after you've been in ADX for a year, do you want to keep doing this, or do you want some lethal injection?
Well, I think everyone in that case would say, I'd rather die. I don't think there's anyone that would want to live in that sort of...
What's crazy is Madoff didn't go to ADX, but he said he liked it.
Well, Madoff went to this place called Coleman, which is... It's not bad. I mean, I always say people, I think...
He got attacked in prison, right?
Well, I'll tell you the story about that. So I wrote about that. I did a show on that as well. He actually didn't get attacked. That's not true.
Okay.
So he was in a day room, and there was the day room at the time was run by these Puerto Ricans. These Puerto Rican.
What's a
group.
day room? Sorry.
A day room is like where you watch TV.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Common area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Jenny Jones show and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got the basic
Supposedly, from what I know, and I got this information from an individual that was essentially his caregiver in prison. He wrote all these works on him and stuff. And he told me that he was in the day room, Bernie, and Bernie would always sit there like this, exactly like how we're sitting, with his feet up on like a stool.
Mm-hmm.
And one kid came in, tried to push him around a little bit, this younger kid, and kicked his feet. And at the time, Bernie was very respected there. He was like an OG there. Everybody loved him.
That's stunning.
Well, they looked at him as like a celebrity, and he was like a smart guy, older guy. And from what I understand, at that point, this kid that kicked him was disciplined by Carmine Persico, who was one time the boss of the Colombo crime family. He was older as well. He kind of says, "What the fuck are you doing? Don't do that again." And the kid went back and apologized to Bernie. And from then on, Bernie Madoff was kind of untouched.
You don't touch him.
And he was taken care of by Persico. Persico gave him all the things he needed. And the guy that told me all this, told me a story that one time, he said, "I'll never forget, we go out in the yard for rec," which is like, outside. And he says it was cold. He said, "I remember I see Bernie there in like a long coat, and he's doling out stuff out of his coat to like 4 or 5 different people." And at the time, he said the reason he had wondered is because Carmine Persico told him that he needed some hot chocolate. And they went to the commissary, and there was no hot chocolate. It was all gone. So they go out in the yard, and Bernie Madoff bought the entire Swiss Miss collection in the prison and was selling it for on the yard.
He's a hustler.
And he said this guy was like he was selling crack on the corner. Like just, he said, I couldn't believe it. He said the guy was so intelligent and he was very respected. People didn't fuck with him at all.
I'm surprised to hear that too, because there was another story. I think I blogged it maybe a month or so ago that someone said that one of the reasons why Bernie pled guilty was because he actually had fucked with the mafia and took their money, and then was like,
I think
he didn't want to be on the street. You don't think that's true?
No, I actually don't think it's true whatsoever. I think for when you make a documentary, if you include Mob Hit, you include the mafia, you include John Gotti,
perks my ears up for sure.
People see it and they say, "Oh shit, that's interesting." The truth of the matter is, look, maybe there was like some Russian businessmen that were moving some money with him, but as far as I know, in the 5 families, I don't know if there's anyone that moves around and with Bernie Madoff and was giving him money. They don't work in banks and stuff. I mean, and a lot of them work in legality for the most part. A lot of mobsters now have legal businesses and things like that. They're all under the microscope. I don't buy it. I think Bernie Madoff pled guilty because Bernie Madoff didn't want his family to be involved. So he said, "It's my thing here. I did this." But he actually said, I think in the documentary, they mentioned that he regretted pleading guilty. Mm-hmm. Because I think, you go to trial, you see what happens. I mean, why plead guilty and get 150 years or whatever they gave him? It didn't make a lot of sense. But
well, I saw that he liked being there because it's the first time where people weren't asking him for shit.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to do. Like
he talked about that.
No pressure.
Yeah, he talked about that. He had talked about that. That was the first time in decades where he was like free. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. He was treated obviously good. I mean, it wasn't a good place to be. But I think what I try to explain to people is federal prison. Yeah, look, if you're going to USP Marion or something like that, it's horrible. I would never want to go there. But if you're going to like the place Bernie was, or like a low end prison, which is where most people are going to go, it's really not that bad. It sucks. I wouldn't want to go there. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of myths about prison, and I think a lot of them were bad for sure. But where he was, like he was teaching financial literacy classes there. Mm-hmm. I know he was teaching inmates how to, when they get out, spend their money.
What shows or movies in pop culture do you think most accurately depict prison culture? Like, I think everyone is familiar with Shawshank. It's an older, different generation, probably different rules. But is that something that?
Well, I asked people that go to prison, and when I speak to someone, I want the people, like I'm speaking to a guy in a couple of weeks. He did 38 years. Like I want people that are
institutionalized,
validated. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, I don't want to interview someone because that's a funny thing on YouTube. There's a prison genre YouTube group, and some guys will get, basically kicked out of the community because they fake. They say they went to prison, they didn't. But no, I think the best probably I would say, and from what I understand, is there's a film, Shot Caller. Have you ever seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Pretty new. I think it's and Jeff Lowe, I know he likes it. Ken Jack like it. It's a great film. And it tells the story of a guy who goes to prison for he goes out with his wife and he's driving drunk and hits someone and kills them. And they send him to prison, and it talks about his matriculation to becoming this validated gang member. And I think, films like that, there's a film called Felon, Stephen Dorff's in it, Val Kilmer. That's a great movie about prison. Blood In, Blood Out, a lot of those films. A lot of them are pretty vivid. I mean, American Me, that's a good one. Oz, I think Oz is pretty realistic.
Okay.
Did you see The Night Of?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you talk about.
So that was MCC, right? Wasn't that the place where
Rikers.
Yeah,
Rikers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another one. I think that's an interesting one because he was kind of messing with that guy Freddie, who was like kind of the shot caller there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we got the exact look into it, but you ever see Escape from Dannemora?
No, I've never heard of it.
No.
That's a real story about two guys in like the mid 2010s that escaped prison in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great show. You should check that out. Who is it? Benicio's in it. Del Toro.
Okay.
He plays one of the inmates. It's a real true story. I think a lot of those films really portray what prison is. And I think prison's the one, thing that they do, from what I know, get right a lot of the time.
How is our prison system viewed versus other countries?
Like, not good.
Not good?
No.
Because you always hear like, you don't want to go to Mexican prison, you'll be fucked.
Yeah, well, look. I think if you know anything about Mexican prisons, not that you don't.
I don't.
Yeah, but I think you'll realize that it's actually like you ask any cartel leader, hey, where do you want to house, Mexico or America? No one wants to go to America because once you go to America, it's over. You can't run your institution. You can't run anything. I mean, Mexican prisons, you get girls, you can get whatever you want, and if you have some money down there, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
and that's I think normal. I mean, we incarcerate more people here than any country on the planet.
Why do you think that is?
The drug war.
Yeah.
The drug war is a joke. It's a failure. I think it's the biggest problem this country has, really. And we don't want to address it. We don't want to talk about it. Because, again, you don't want to be looked at as stall-fund crime, even though that's what we already are at this point. We just are in a really bad spot. And China has how many people? Billions?
Billion.
We have, 330 million, and we house more people in prison than they do?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. It's a never-ending cycle, but yeah, AdMax is the ADX. That's the place you don't want to go. But I think if you behave, you won't ever go there. It's just
I don't think I want to go to any of them, to be honest with you.
no, I don't either.
Yeah.
Fuck no.
But I think if you do, and I'll tell you this to anyone out there, if you are going to go to prison, you have to go to prison. There are companies, there are people, I know many of them, that work in prison consulting, and they teach you what you should and should not do. That's, I think, a good idea. And look, you talk to a lot of people. There may be someone that is watching this and has to report to prison. Make sure you know what to do and what not to do, because if you do know what to do, you'll be okay and you'll probably do all right. But it's a world I don't want to go to.
Have you done one on Alcatraz ever?
No, but I'm going to.
Yeah,
that actually was.
I've been there.
You have?
Yeah, it was cool. They give you like a headset. You do a walking tour, and like Capone talks to you, and like you're going.
That was the original, most secure prison.
Yeah,
because it was you had to take a boat to get to it.
Yeah.
And at the time, back then, it was Atlanta and Alcatraz. Those are the two federal prisons, and that's where they sent the worst people. But yeah, it's a wild world. And you mentioned the people that work there, man. You imagine that. That's it's got to be hard to compress from.
For sure. Well, all right, Jeff, Chief, anything else?
I think that's all I got.
I got one more question for you guys.
Okay.
So we're talking let's talk like a medium, like a not real dangerous place, like a regular federal prison, FCI, Federal Correctional Institution. What would you need to, on March 1st, a van's going to pick you up and take you there? You have to spend 12 months there, and you will be a regular inmate. No special program, no nothing. You're going to booked in as a regular inmate. What's the dollar amount you need to do that?
For a year?
Correct. You have your phone privilege. You're not in SAG. You're just a regular inmate. No, we're not talking about the worst place. We're just talking about like a regular.
Like I'm not a place where I'm like worried about getting like raped.
No,
and shit
you're not
like
gonna get
that.
raped. You're probably not gonna have to join a gang. You're just.
Will you get your ass beat?
Nah, I mean,
So
if you act
no.
stupid, maybe.
Okay, so you just got to survive.
And like, no one gets their ass
Keep your
beat
head
for-
down.
Yeah, and you can mingle with other people. You hang out with people.
Play a little basketball or
Now, one
something.
thing is, regardless of where you go, generally, you hang with race. That's the thing about prison. Race is all important. You only hang out with your race. That's how it is. But I think in those types of places, you mingle, you move around. What do you need? 12 months. So March 1st of 2024, that's when you're getting out.
And I know I'm not going to get my ass beat. I know I'm not.
Yeah, you're not unless you act like an asshole.
Okay, yeah. So
You're just going to be.
I'm not going to act like an asshole.
Yeah. I think my number's pretty low.
It's lower
For
than
12
you think.
months.
Yeah. I
Like
think
how low? Like how low is that?
I mean,
what
12,
are you saying, 12K?
12 months, like.
Does my life start at the same point when I get out, or do I get a restart?
Yeah. You have your job, you have everything.
And it's like not on my record.
And
like,
remember, you
because
get
that's
to
big.
right. And you
'Cause-
remember, you get to use what you learned and your experience to probably help what you do here. Because you
But-
could.
I think I would do it for like $1 million.
That's what I was saying.
Okay,
Like
that's a
maybe,
lot.
Maybe less.
Maybe like maybe
I
like
thought you were gonna say-
800K.
I thought you were gonna say like 100 grand or something.
Yeah.
No, I mean like no, that's too little.
But
But
you want
like
10 grand a month or something.
What would you do?
What would I do
Yeah.
for 1 year?
And you're
I'd have
saying like it's not on your record. People aren't going to view you as like.
and I could talk to the consultant. I mean, for what I know, I'd probably do 500,000.
yeah, like I it would have to be the amount of money that I couldn't reasonably earn as a free person.
Now, if I have to go to like a USP Beaumont or something, like the worst of the worst, there's no amount of money.
Yeah, no, I'm not fucking with that. But like what you're talking about sounds like you got a routine. You said it might be about this size. I mean, some TV.
Well-
you got phone privileges.
Yeah, I think in those places too, it's like more of like a dorm atmosphere. So it's like bunk beds and shit.
Yeah,
like
play a little pickup basketball in the yard. I don't know.
It's a long 365 days.
And remember,
don't
you
get me
But
have-
wrong.
like time goes by, like
And remember, you have like in federal prison, money is what's. If you have money on the books, you can buy whatever you want. Those commissaries, you can buy whatever you want. So I mean, you can eat okay. You can. It's not that.
yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably.
I thought you were gonna say like 100,000.
No, 100,000. No, like it has to be something that I'm like I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna like buy like a second house or something. You know, like something like that'll be like worth
something
it.
nice.
Yeah, where it's like
There you go.
Whatever the.
I'm
fight
not gonna
purse-
go into prison for making like, you know, what is it like? What's like this? What's like the number for middle class? I feel like it's like what is it? 250? You're still
Yeah,
considered.
you'd be way above that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever
so-
the fight purse you got for Jersey Jerry.
What was it you said?
Whatever the fight purse you got, that's what I'll take.
Do you know what it is?
No, I don't know, but I might know.
A lot of people know.
Yeah, I think
It was way more than I should have got.
yeah, I watched that fight.
I think you said that. I think you guys. I want to say like that stopped it for everybody.
yeah, way to go.
I
Well,
think
see,
so.
here's the thing though. In the end, though, with that fight, and we could, I mean, we don't have to talk about it here, but like, I think we had 70,000 buys. I mean, it
Yeah,
worked.
it was hyped up.
I mean,
yeah,
I'll tell you though, right now, and I'll say this, I told you outside, if I ever fought again, I've trained from then on, where I just did it for fun. It would be a lot different for me if I ever did it again. But yeah, no, I got too much for sure.
okay. Well, if you got 70,000 buys, I mean that's.
It's a lot of
I think-
money.
But that's only a smidge higher than what they usually get, though.
Oh, really?
To my knowledge, yeah.
I think they normally get like 50 or something.
Yeah, like 60
Okay.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it is what it is. Either
Yeah.
way, yeah, I would need.
It wasn't Kenseco money though, was it?
No.
No.
I would need like 10 times what I made at Rough and Rowdy.
To do a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least I have a month. But then again, March 1st would suck because I'd miss the tournament, I would say to them, I'd be like, yo, I'll do it for 50,000 less if you let me go April 1st.
This is one of the. Well, you missed the Final Four.
That's all right.
Yeah.
At least I got most of it,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You don't need to see that big fucking stadium game.
Yeah. Fuck
No.
that.
Fucking
I could
Ford
watch it
Field.
inside. Real quick before we go, guys. I want to tell you a quick story about the Super Bowl with the Eagles, 2018. My friend, he was in federal prison in New Jersey, and he told me the night they won. He said, you know what we did inside? He said, we all watched it. They had a big screen on the wall, and everybody's Eagles fans there. He said, we all put together, we all had to bring something. So we all went to the commissary and we made like...
So a little potluck.
Yes. That's exactly what they did. He said we made different...
It sounds nice.
Yeah.
Well,
this is the best part. When they won, he said all of them made little rings. As like a little
rings.
like workshop. Yeah.
That's funny.
And they had a great night. They had little dinners. They made stuff and...
So that's
pretty
pretty
sick.
like,
Sounds
that's what
okay,
I mean.
doesn't
It's
it?
like-
I mean,
Not bad.
it's not your Super Bowl party, but you
No.
you do what you do. You know.
We're not hanging out with Michael Rubin, but
yeah.
No. But it's
Yeah.
we make the best out of it. So
yeah.
All right.
All right, then. All right, thanks, Jeff.
thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. That's it for today. We will catch you next time.